Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the City of Laguna Beach Planning Commission meeting for February 18th to order. Could we please have a roll call?
Commissioner Sadler?
Here.
Commissioner Whiten?
Here.
Commissioner Dubin?
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman? Chair Kellenberg?
Here. Okay, the first item is public communications. At this time, if anybody in the public would like to come up and address the Planning Commission on items that are not on the agenda, this would be the time to do that. Is there anybody? Okay, if not, then we will close public communications. The next item is the consent calendar. Is there anybody on the Planning Commission that would like to pull any items off of the consent calendar? Is there anybody in the audience in the room that would like to pull something off of the consent calendar? If not, we'll entertain a motion to approve the consent calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten?
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman? Chair Kellenberg?
Yes,
Motion carried.
consent calendar approved. The first item is temporary use permit 26-0185 and coastal development permit 26-0184. I will be recusing myself in as much as I'm within 500 feet of one of the sites to be discussed. So I will hand it over to Pro Tem.
Okay. Claire.
Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Item 5.1 is a request for a temporary use permit and coastal development permit for a temporary art installation across 6 different sites. The project request is comprised of 2 parts. First is to allow and extend temporary art exhibitions across previously approved 5 locations, those being 3rd Street Steps, Heisler Park Lawn, City Hall Left Lawn, Laguna Canyon Frontage Road Pocket Park, and Alta Laguna Park. And the second part is to add 1 more temporary art exhibition location at lower portion of Promenade on Forest. While the project is temporary in nature, a coastal development permit is required because it exceeds the 2-week duration threshold for temporary events that are exempt from a CDP. Here, the table shows all 6 sites with their current TUPs and requested TUP dates. The requested TUP duration is from February 20th, 2026 through February 19, 2029 for all 6 locations. Here are some past art installation across the existing 5 sites. For each location, including the new location at Promenade, the Arts Commission will be selecting the artworks and the time period. At the lower portion of the Promenade, the temporary art installations will be limited to a designated area called the Art Zone, as shown on the right rendering. This is the defined area where both ground-mounted and overhead art pieces may be placed. The Art Zone maintains minimum 15 feet horizontal clearance from each storefront walkways to preserve pedestrian circulation. And in addition, any overhead artwork must maintain at least 10 feet of vertical clearance so that pieces are hung up high enough to ensure safe and unobstructed passage below. In addition to standard conditions of approval, there are site-specific conditions tailored to each location in the resolution to ensure public safety and protect public health. For example, at the new Promenade site, coordination with building official and public works is required to verify structural and weight capacity of any overhead artwork. And at Heisler Park, which is a location that was previously approved, any art installations are limited to no more than 50% of the lawn to preserve open space and maintain usability of the park. Overall, with the addition of Promenade location, all 6 locations for the temporary art reinforces the city's identity as an arts destination. Staff's recommendation is to conduct a public hearing and adopt resolution number 26-0185 and approving temporary use permit 2026-0185 and coastal development permit 2026-0184 and findings that action exempt from CEQA. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we go to staff questions, any disclosures? Okay, questions of staff?
I have a couple questions having to do with the resolution. And there are project-specific conditions. First, on page 15 of the resolution, condition 28 requires that the grass lawn shall be restored to its pre-existing condition at the conclusion of each exhibition. Should that condition also be applied to the Heisler Park lawn and the Alta Laguna Park as well?
We can definitely condition.
Wherever there's lawn, it should be, okay. And then the second is condition 36. Prior to the commencement of the work, the Cultural Arts Department shall install temporary barriers around the project site. Should we add that condition to the other sites as well?
We can, but if the the Cultural Arts Department staff has any objection to that, or if that's okay.
We
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's a safety issue for the city to control, control people or not.
Perfect. It's probably best to hear from the applicant
Okay.
during their time, and we can see.
All right, that's it.
Before we bring up the applicant, other questions?
Yeah, I've got, we've dealt with TUPs that have lasted 3 years for other events and things that are reoccurring. And so after every 3 years, we have to go through this process again. And my question is, because these locations have been continually used over the years, is there any way to just, instead of having to review these every 3 years, that we can just shift this to a permanent, I guess that'd be a CUP or something, so that we don't have to continue to go through this every 3 years? It seems like these are going to be ongoing sites for temporary sculptures, and is there any way just to make these permanent locations?
Thank you for that question. When it comes to the temporary uses, we have a lot more flexibility in the types of spaces that could accommodate them on a temporary basis. However, permanent installations that might be included in these public park facilities are not currently listed as permitted or conditionally permitted uses. And so we would need to have that pathway formalized as a way of being able to consider it under a different type of application. Right now, the current pathway is for temporary use permit because we have a broader, more flexibility in what we can approve on that temporary basis.
As in terms of the actual pieces, or?
In terms of being able to expand the primary use right now is a park facility, for instance.
Okay.
And so in order to be able to broaden what types of uses might be able to be crafted into that space, you'd have to actually address in the zoning code what that methodology might look like.
Okay, so it may cause a conflict if they were made.
It is potential. Yeah, there's a potential conflict.
All right, thank you.
Just on the chart that you showed regarding this 6 sites, the one new one, the 5 existing ones, the current TUP expiration date on most of them has already expired. Did I miss it in the staff report? I don't know if you covered that. Why were they allowed to expire? Why did they expire? Are we just trying to group them all together now? What's going on? Because some of these, it looks like they expired back in 23.
Yes, 3 of them did already expire, 2 of them being expired in 2023 and 1 of them in 2025. I can't speak on behalf of the applicant why these were expired, but we are processing as a whole. And this TUP does cover all of them because now we're processing with the same duration for them to expire all in 2029.
Okay, so from here on out, they'll all be on the same cycle. And regarding the new site for Forest Avenue, in the staff report where it's showing kind of the banner or whatever, again, that's just trying to depict an area where art would go, not that that there would be an entry banner or something like that typically or we don't know really what's going to be the final proposed art. Is that correct?
That's correct. And the
Okay.
Arts Commission will determine what kind of art pieces they want to hang up. And it could, it depends on what they choose, but that picture is showing where art pieces will be.
Okay. I just remember in some of our earlier commissioner discussions, there was some early depictions of kind of an entryway monument or signage that most of the commission didn't feel was appropriate, but I guess, and then lastly, I'm trying to remember now, once we approve, if we are to approve this and stuff, and a new art installation is proposed for the Forest Promenade, will that come back to us, or is that going to be exclusively dealt with through the Arts Commission?
It will be with Arts Commission. They have they will be overseeing what kind of art and how long each art pieces will be displayed for.
But we will not be weighing in on the discussion of the appropriateness of that art.
I don't believe so. Yeah, according to the request for proposal that was approved back in 2025, that's limited. The art selection is limited to the Arts Commission.
Okay, that's as I remembered it. All right, thank you.
Okay, should we open the public hearing, starting with the applicant?
Good evening, Planning Commission members. It's nice to see you all and to be here. It's been a while since I was here. And thank you to Claire for giving such a great background and report regarding our request. So I don't want to kind of reiterate what the report is because you've heard it and you understand what it is. And we've been here before asking for the request, but just to address some of the questions that you have had, such as barriers for installation. We do ensure that sidewalks are safe for the public and have signage. And if we need to direct people to a safer passage, we're able to do that and have staff there. I think it would become very cost prohibitive if we would need to put barriers around the entire site when it probably isn't necessary and changes a lot. As far as returning the grass to its original condition, that is something that we do, both outside City Hall and at Heisler Park. It's not necessary at Alta Laguna Park because that's a mural and it's surrounded by a concrete pathway. So that wouldn't necessarily need that. So the locations that you've approved before, I brought them one at a time to you. And one of the things that you said was, we'd like to see them all together. So we have been delinquent and not come to you for your approval to extend the TUP for some of them, wanting them all to come together so we could come to you, getting the same dates for all the locations, and that when you review the temporary use permits for all these locations, you see them all together rather than as individual sites trying to remember where the other sites are. So that was the purpose, and for us not to be tardy in reapplying in the future. We know that they're all at the same time. And to Mr. Dubin's question, whether coming back every 3 years, whether that is something that could be expedited, whether I don't know if there's a way that if we have come to you for twice, say, for some locations, whether if they are going to continue, whether it could be administratively approved, if we haven't done anything too bad and we haven't misbehaved too much, that it's something, we haven't broken any of the rules, that it maybe would be something that we could do administratively. I don't know if that is possible. But the one that is new is the promenade. And the promenade is going to be a location that will need reinventing and looking new and looking different for people to continue to be excited about going there and seeing what's there. And temporary art has a great way of creating that energy and that atmosphere. So it seemed like a great location to experiment with temporary art installations. There are two types of installations that potentially could go on the promenade. One would be at street level and would be a pedestrian experience. And it shows it can be within the center and in more pedestrian areas than the built-out areas, whilst the overhead allows for suspended installations. I don't know if you remember Poetic Kinetic installation that was from the hotel to Main Beach. That's an example of a suspended installation that creates a different type of atmosphere. So the Arts Commission were looking at different types of opportunities and are looking at, for the first installation, a kinetic piece for the promenade. And the pieces would need to be attached to the existing poles. And we're still figuring out what weight bearing those poles would be. So there wouldn't be any pole installations. They would be suspended to the existing infrastructure. So there isn't going to be a change to the infrastructure in any way. And there won't be any signage as an entryway signage with the public artwork. The public artwork will be standalone. So I'm happy to answer any questions if I haven't addressed them adequately.
How frequently do you think you'll change in the promenade?
You know, we would like to change them more frequently than we do. But unfortunately, it comes down to funding. And the Arts Commission's budget has just been cut by $60,000. And money it had saved, $250,000 of it was given to the Laguna Playhouse. So we would like to do a lot more, but unfortunately, it depends on the available funds that we have available to be able to continue to activate.
When will you do the first piece?
Friday.
Oh, yeah, but
That's
that
right.
will be here though. Evelyn.
Tonight is so pressing because the first installation is Friday.
Okay. But for the promenade.
For the promenade,
Yeah. Saturday.
It's a Saturday, no. We would be looking, fingers crossed, at October. And it would be a piece that would also be there for all the hospitality night activities that would be part of what we consider as residents, a celebration of our downtown. And it would seem that would be the best timing, especially with lights, to be able to do that.
Yeah. My other question is, have you looked at other sites? We have these 6, but surely there are others. Or you don't want to stretch yourself too thin?
I think that is part of it right now, is being able to activate the sites that you have and ensure they don't become dormant and nothing happens, because that's not a very successful program. The ideal situation would have 10 locations and be able to interchange pieces, especially with developments in projected light art installations that can go in for a day or two and move them around town. And for us, why applying for a temporary use permit for all these multiple locations is a lot of times we're working on being very opportunistic, where there's an installation, maybe the installation that's coming to us on Friday, we weren't really sure if it was available till the end of December. He's picking it up in, the other side of LA and bringing it to, we're opportunistic in the work that we're finding as well. So having approvals for these TUPs in advance gives us that opportunity. So we're not scrambling, looking for getting an approval for a location and going through that process. But you're right, multiple added locations would be great once we have the money.
Yeah, there are 3 pieces that are being removed for the construction.
Mm-hmm.
I know we talked, I think it was in the Planning Commission, or maybe it was with the consultant, about possibly relocating those in other spots downtown rather than trying to, fill up the promenade with too much stuff. Is there a plan for that?
It's not on this agenda for this because they are permanent pieces. But I can address that they will need to be returned. So, but I don't think it's on for
No, it's
discussion for
not.
this agenda.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Sean, I've got a couple of questions, and I don't know if this is I don't know how it works with the Art and Nature program with the museum, but I know that those generally only run for like 4 days or something like that. And there's been some of those installations that have been very difficult, like especially the hanging. I don't remember the name of it, but it was a beautiful hanging.
The poetic kinetic.
Yeah,
Patrick
yeah.
Shearnan, yeah.
I mean, that was an amazing piece, and I know that it was a challenging installation, and it seemed like it would have been amazing to have that run through, maybe even for a month or something. Now, I don't know how the mechanics of that works. If the museum comes to the Arts Commission to show you what
With that particular piece, we actually partnered with the museum and financially partnered with them as well to make that happen. But the museum, we do, my colleague here, Karen Wood, is the public art coordinator, and she works very closely with the museum, and we work very hard to ensure what they want to achieve is achievable on city property and work with them through that process. And they work with getting a director-approved TUP, which is under 5 days. And part of it, I can't really speak to it clearly, and again, it's not an agenda item. Also depends where the piece goes and the Coastal Commission. So there's a lot more moving parts to their installation than you would consider for the ones that the city are doing.
Would they want to extend the length of that, or is that sort of a decision they make to do
It's a
it?
decision they make.
Okay.
And I know it's been brought up. This is so wonderful. Why isn't it here for longer? I mean, it's certainly been brought up.
Yeah, I just didn't know if there was a way to sort of bring that under the umbrella of what you're doing tonight to be able to give them a little more leeway if they have an installation like the hanging installation that was, challenging to install for 4 or 5 days to, if they said, we'd love it if it would be up for 2 weeks or a month or something, if there was some flexibility with some of those, depending on whether.
Yeah, I think there could be some, especially with the centennial coming up, where there potentially could be lots of events happening all over town and lots of places. There may be a need to come forward with an approval for temporary use permits for multiple locations for multiple uses. So, that's certainly something to consider that might help organizations as well.
My only other question is regarding the stage on the promenade. I know that when SWA came through here for their final approval on that, there's actually 2 stages, one at each end of the promenade, and they weren't permanently fixed. They were able to be moved around depending on if there was a special event where they wanted to put them both together, for instance, for a bigger group, or move them around to different sites on the promenade, and that's what was approved by us. And I see that on what's presented tonight that the stage has been moved to a more central, or one of the stages, more central location. I just wondering, why the move there? And I know it's based on maybe trying to have more visibility for the restaurants or whatever to enjoy that as well. But I just want to make sure that, the 2 stages are going to remain flexible for depending on what the application is. If, like I say, the Coast Film Festival, for instance, they had a stage at the Coast Highway end, and I know when SWA, when I went and reviewed that, they had a stage in a really kind of a weird spot, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense for musicians and/or people enjoying the entertainment. So I just want to make sure that those are going to remain flexible for whatever whatever music and or performance is being presented down there. Is it?
I know our temporary art installations aren't going to affect any other activity that happens there. And I think the space will have enough flexibility to be able to accommodate all the needs and all the exciting programming that is going to happen. So that's my understanding of the situation. And again, it's not on the agenda, so I can't really talk about it.
Great. I just.
See, that's the problem with being the city employee, you know. But yeah, I would imagine with the temporary art pieces also, it gives everybody the flexibility to use the site as it's intended.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one other question that came to mind when you were talking about your budget. What percentage of the installations are the artists given a stipend? Or do they contribute them and your budget is really just the cost of moving things in and out?
So just generally with the Arts Commission's budget, 97% of the Arts Commission's budget goes directly back to pay artists for installations, or whether it's public art installations, temporary installations, live music, banners, palettes. 97% of their budget goes back to paying artists to do what they do. Every temporary art installation artist is provided with a stipend to install and deinstall the work and return the site to its original condition. So all the funds go 100% wherever we can to the artists.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Any questions from the public?
Good evening, Commissioners. I was reviewing.
State your name.
Sorry, Nick Aronoff, a longtime resident of Laguna Beach. The report said lower promenade, but then the entire promenade was circled. So that was a bit confusing on where specifically these arts installations were planning to go. Sorry if that was confusing. It's just confusing to me. And also, and I apologize if I speak out of turn on that, just because I understand it's not finished yet and we don't know exactly how everything's going to be planned out, and we want it to be ready to go so all these arts installations are ready for when the promenade's ready, and that completely makes sense. But you know, some of the language was a little bit confusing with some of the circles. And it was commented by the previous speaker and by the commissioners when it came to, you know, what takes precedent over another location, like if there's an event or like the film festival, you know, they need staging area. You don't want that to be getting in the way of public art. You know, there is artwork, public art in the in Heisler Park, and there are some people who have permits to do different, you know, workout classes or other different events. And how does that supersede one over the other? Is that worked out in an agreement ahead of time, or is there public notice on when one supersedes over the other? And, you know, it's unfortunate that Commissioner Kellenberg had to recuse himself, and I was just confused, and I apologize. This isn't a personal attack or anything. I'm just trying to get clarity on the information, because Commissioner Dubin, you do public art as well. And so is that a conflict of interest of you being involved here on decisions of where things are or not? And I don't know, this isn't a personal attack. It could have been Commissioner Sadler who does public art, right? So, so I was just wondering from that perspective, because I would hate, I know you have a beautiful piece of art at the Surf and Sand, and for you to not be able to potentially place your art in public at areas because you are here making this vote. So I just wasn't sure how that works, because you obviously have good, you can help with the planning input, you know, all the engineering when it comes to placing that art. So I was just curious on that, if you could speak on that. But yeah, it was just overall a bit confusing that you guys are going to give a permit for a place that's not yet completed, and the whole area circled when it said lower. So I didn't know what the difference was between that. So if any clarity on that, I think would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing. And do you want to respond to?
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, I'll go ahead and respond to the conflict question.
Okay.
First and foremost, so the conflict laws require a financial interest. The reason why Chair Kellenberg is recused, that there is a presumptive financial interest if your interest in real property is within 500 feet. Typically, that's within a project, i.e. 123 Main Street. However, here, because of I believe there's 5 or 6 different locations, he is within one. It's probably overly cautious because, once again, as I said before, it's not the quintessential, hey, we're going to build a new building or a new project on 123 Main Street. That's always been kind of the city's approach. And tonight, of course, Chair Kellenberg went ahead and continue with that. As it pertains to Commissioner Dubin, from where he sits right now, he does not have any financial interest. I know that the rules were recently changed prior to, I want to say, mid last year, late last year. No city official or employee was allowed to apply for any type of public art. The city council made a decision on that, potentially allowing officials or employees, don't quote me on that, but for sure officials. However, Commissioner Dubin here has no say in that process. He's not given any type of special treatment or anything like that. He would simply submit his application just like any other applicant would, and no special care, credence, or favor would bestow upon him because of his role with the city. Thank you very much. And Commissioner Dubin,
Yeah, I can just add to that. Since I've been on the Planning Commission since 2018, there has been a standing rule that was researched recently regarding people on commissions or panels or boards not being eligible to apply for any public art that's run by the city. In other words, a competition run by the city through the Arts Commission. I did inquire about that, as our council said probably 4 or 5 months ago, just to ask where the rule came from, and he did research on that and found that there was really no substantial or any kind of hard and fast rule that was created by the city or the Arts Commission about that. So in review, the council decided that that eligibility would be opened back up to people on commissions and panels as long as they were not involved in the decision-making process. And and there's a difference between when an artist is commissioned by a private entity versus a city-run competition that's run through the Arts Commission. So, for instance, the Surf and Sand piece, that had nothing to do with the city. That was commissioned by the ownership of the Surf and Sand. So that the only approval process that was required there was to show the Arts Commission what the piece was and whether it posed any kind of safety or health issues to the public. So there is a difference in that, and that's the only piece I've done in the city, I believe, since I've been on the commission here. And again, that was run through private ownership, coming to me directly, had nothing to do with city-run competition. So, but now city council has decided that that eligibility requirement was changed. However, if I were to apply for a city-run public art competition, that would be run through the Arts Commission, and it would be the decision as to whether or not I would receive one would be based on their decision-making process that I had nothing to do with. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but.
No.
But
I think the question about the lower promenade, I believe the meaning is lower forest. That's how that block is typically referred to, is lower forest. So it's the promenade on lower forest.
So, and to clarify, so the designated art zone is basically the entire length of the promenade, with the exception of keeping 15-foot wide storefront walkways on either side open. So it's a 40-foot wide zone that runs the entire length of the promenade from
Yeah.
the corner of Glen Arian Forest to Coast Highway.
Yes, thank you for that point of clarification. It is the applicant's intention to continue to maintain the flexibility along that stretch of the promenade. However, if you have concerns about the entire stretch being a possibility, then that's something that you can continue to discuss with the applicant or can further restrict. But as of right now, that's the portion that has been noticed as a part of the public hearing.
Okay, I think we addressed both points.
Yeah.
Okay, commissioner discussion? Anybody want to start?
Well, I think the temporary art program is
I think it was closed before.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought, yeah.
I think the temporary art program is a great program for the city because it allows the Arts Commission to have some flexibility in terms of, putting out some potentially more challenging pieces of art because they are temporary. So if they're there for a month to 3 months, if people don't like them or they love them or whatever, it's you're not going to have to live with it for in perpetuity. So I think it adds some interesting opportunities for more artists to apply and be able to display their work, even if it is on a temporary basis. So I'm really in favor of this program.
Yeah, I just wish we could have more. And it's really tragic what's happening to the budgets here and elsewhere. I'm very happy that there are two representatives of the Laguna Art Museum now on the commission, Carl and Nicole. And I think that intertwining of the city, the Arts Commission, and the Lagoon and the Art Museum is an important step for the community. And some of the things could happen, as Commissioner Dubin was noting, the short length of that installation on Heisler was too bad, but that really predated a lot of this close coordination that we're just at the beginning of. So I think we'll find there'll be a lot more interaction of the city on the art and nature and the Arts Commission.
I'm supportive as well. It's a great program. I think it's really produced some really fine pieces of art over the year. Regarding the designated art zone at the Promenade on Forest, I think having kind of as much flexibility in the placement of art within that area continues kind of the theme of what I think the Planning Commission was going for over its input about the general design of the promenade and having it be open and flexible to as many uses and possibilities, both in live entertainment and in art installations. So I'm supportive of that as well. I'm glad that these are all getting on the same schedule, and we'll now have TUPs that expire all on the same time so they can come back all at once. Whether or not there's a way to expedite the project in the future, I don't think, now that they're all combined together with these 3 or 6 sites, that coming back, every 3 years is not overly burdensome, I don't think. So I'm supportive of the proposal here tonight.
Yeah, I'm supportive as well. I echo Susan's comment. Just wish you could have more, particularly at Heisler Park. We just don't see much, which is a shame because it gets so much foot traffic there. I also agree with Commissioner Sadler on the flexibility. Promenade is new. We don't really know how it's going to work, I don't think, and I think it will be a little bit of a working process. So I think having the flexibility as it's written, I support that as well. Good. Should we make a motion?
I move that Planning Commission adopt Resolution 26-0185 approving temporary use permit 2026-0185 and coastal development permit 2026-0184 with the addition of condition 28 to the project-specific conditions at Heisler Park Lawn, and finding said action exempt from CEQA.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Sadler?
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten?
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item, 5.2, Coastal Development Permit 26011-5. Applicant is City of Laguna Beach. So you have something to say.
Correct, Chair. If I may, before the staff report, did want to address how at the top of said staff report, 2 planning commissioners are listed within 500 feet. I briefly touched on a somewhat similar topic in the previous item. The item brought to you is a citywide parking program dealing with rates which apply to every city parking meter, parking lot, parking structure, and parking space. That's done for a variety of reasons. One of the major ones is a request by the California Coastal Commission. They want to have it holistically as compared to piecing off, different parts of the city and letting you guys go ahead and do that. From where I sit, it's unclear whether or not that strict 500-foot rule would apply to a singular parking meter. However, due to the timing, we weren't able to go out to the FPPC to get a formal opinion. However, and this is the good news, and this is why you two will be sitting up here, or should you choose, there is something called the public generally exception to that. And what that posits is that if the official's interest is in his or her primary residence and 15% of the residential real property in the city is similarly impacted, then the official is free to participate. So once again, using that same standard of, are you within 500 feet of either a city parking meter, parking lot, parking structure, parking space, then the official can go ahead and do that. We have ran the math. We are well in excess of 15%. I believe we are actually closer to 25%. So even if our, CAD and GIS drawing was a few feet off, it's my opinion that you guys are well within the safe range to go ahead and participate. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Okay, we'll now have staff make a presentation on this item.
Good evening. I'm Daniel Latham, Associate Planner, and with me I have Alexis Braun, Director of Transit and Community Services. The city is processing a CDP for the parking rate structure for the next 5 years for public parking meters, parking lots, parking structures located citywide for summer and non-summer months. On September 23rd, 2025, the City Council authorized staff to process this CDP and is being modeled after the 2021 to 2025 program, which includes a 10% incremental increase in the downtown festival and non-downtown areas during the summer season, a $1 increase of the off-season rate, as well as affordable or reduced priced off-season and peripheral parking options, which include to be continue to be maintained. The city's parking management program outlines efforts to reduce the parking congestion and promote alternative transportation. The summer rate increases have slightly reduced occupancy, but levels in some areas still exceed the 85% target, according to the latest PMP performance update in 2025. Occupancy above 85% indicates parking rates are not yet effectively managing demand and require further adjustment. Offering varied parking options by location and price, along with a smart parking guidance app, helps direct drivers to available spaces. Additional rate increases, especially in the downtown and beach adjacent areas, including summer and weekends, are needed to improve circulation, reduce congestion, and maintain occupancy at or below 85%. In terms of environmental justice, in 2016 through AB 2616, the Coastal Act was amended to grant the Coastal Commission authority to consider environmental justice in permit decisions. And in 2019, the California Coastal Commission adopted the environmental justice policy, and the city's PMP reflects a wide range of free and low-cost parking options, and it's supported by programs that encourage alternative transportation and carpooling, benefiting underserved communities and improving equitable coastal access, as listed in the staff report on pages 5 through 6. The use of parking revenue goes towards ongoing parking management strategies and transportation programs. It supports the trolley services and on-demand microtransit, such as Laguna Local, parking facility acquisition and operations, peripheral lots, and alternative transportation marketing. Trolley-related costs are rising by approximately 4 to 5% annually. And there was a recent insurance increase totaling over $350,000 since the prior year. And revenues have also funded or may fund street renovations identified under the Downtown Implementation Action Plan and the city's wildfire mitigation and fire safety initiatives. This project does comply with the general plan and the LCP, as well as the coastal development permit findings. The project has been discussed with the Coastal Commission staff, and we provided a report to the Coastal Commission staff prior to this meeting, and no concerns have been identified. It's staff's recommendation to conduct this public hearing and approve this coastal development permit and find the project exempt from CEQA. The project is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15273A, which is regarding rates, tolls, fares, and charges, as the project involves the establishment of a multi-year, multi-phase parking rate structure for the purpose of funding operating expenses associated with the city's parking system and related services, including maintenance, enforcement, staffing, and equipment needs. That concludes my presentation. We're available for questions.
Thank you. Questions?
I have one. With the potential increase in the parking meter rates, I know that several neighborhoods, especially in North Laguna and neighborhoods in South Laguna, are very much impacted by, especially during the summer, people parking in those areas. And do you think that with the potential increase of parking meter rates, do you think that's going to have an increased impact on neighborhoods where there is no metered parking, where people tend to look for parking spaces when they go to the beach or whatever?
It's definitely possible over time. However, there is an annual update to the parking management plan and how it's being implemented, and whether it's being successful or not. And most recently, as mentioned, we're over 85% occupancy in most lots throughout the city. But yeah, in terms of your question related to impacting the neighborhoods, I don't know if we'll
Correct.
know for sure.
If I may, I'll go ahead and jump in. That it's, as Mr. Latham did explain, we're going to continue to monitor it. Once again, the idea that, hey, parking is more expensive, therefore people aren't going to park in that meter, they're going to go park in the neighborhoods, is a possibility. On the flip side, there's also something that, hey, if that parking is more expensive, there could be some more turnover, and such that those spaces, rather than being monopolized by a single user for the entirety of the day, i.e., now someone's, they wish they could park in the meter, they can't because there's not even a space, then now they're going to go kind of more inland. So that's, it's really kind of a wait and see type approach, but I don't think it's necessarily accurate to say unequivocally, no matter what, for every kind of, penny or quarter or dollar you increase parking rates by, that necessarily means that will drive people into the neighboring neighborhoods. Without it, it's really kind of finding that magical Goldilocks zone of parking turnover, making it incentivizing people to want to park there, but not park there kind of potentially all day.
I was just asking the question. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
I have a couple of questions having to do with the alternative transportation that's available to visitors. Now that the lots at the end of the canyon are built with office buildings, where does the summer breeze pick people up?
Good evening. My name is Alexis Braun, Acting Director of Transit and Community Services. So the city leases, has a lease with Concordia University, which is on Laguna Canyon Road in Irvine. And it's a free parking lot that is available that people park at, and we take the trolleys in, as well as in the summer months, the Act 5, Lot 16 in the canyon is also available for reduced fee as well. And the trolleys bring people downtown from there as well.
Does the trolley go to the Salt Creek parking lot and pick people up?
It picks up right across from the parking lot at the Ritz-Carlton property,
Okay.
as well as Monday through Friday after 5 p.m. and Saturdays and Sundays at Mission Hospital in South Laguna. That is free parking as well, and the trolley takes people in from there.
Okay, now a question about the use of the parking revenues. Also in the report, I think, Daniel, there's a mention that parking revenues can be used for stairs, beach access, benches, and so forth. And I understand that's part of the Coastal Act now with the environmental justice, but what percentage, roughly, how do you break down the percentage of the parking revenues and how they're spent? How much of it is actually spent on, say, alternative transportation? How much of it is spent on benches? What's the rough distribution of where that money goes?
So I think the key word is may. So if there's extra funds, they can go towards other improvements. But in general, it's primarily the funds are used to maintain the existing services in the city.
I'm sorry,
The existing parking services,
Okay.
including the trolley and the increased costs that we're expecting from insurance and the annual increases from inflation.
So that money is helping to pay for this insurance increase, for example.
Yes, and all the trolley programs, and we have the new on-demand microtransit program as well. That does a fleet of 10 vehicles, so it's funded that. So I'd say probably a good 60% of the parking revenue does fund the transportation program, as well as we have apps for the parking to show what lots are available, and you can pay mobilely with your app, and then all the maintenance of the pay stations in each parking meter has certain monthly maintenance fees associated with it as well. So a large fund does fund parking in general too, and then the remain will go in for enforcement and various for the police department as well. So
how about advanced planning for peripheral parking? Is there any money? Is any of or does that come out of the city budget? What we have is we have a parking management plan, and we're always just trying to stay in front of it. What's the long-term solution? We're crowbarring spaces here and there. We're doing our best, but that's not a long-term solution. So advanced planning would look at these sort of things, and I know advanced planning has been discussed. This is just one of several things that would need to be advanced planned. But I'm just wondering if in your work, the long-term solutions are being considered.
go ahead. Sorry.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and answer. I'll take a stab at that question. When it comes to this particular rate increase and the CEQA implications, we're truly looking at maintaining the existing infrastructure and making sure that it's working functionally and able to serve the current population, including those that might be in underserved communities. When we're looking at future expansion, that would be outside of the scope of what we're considering today with this rate increase, and it would ultimately need to be considered as it could have its own environmental impacts. So it truly is a separate animal, and whether this type of funding might be able to help support those in the future, that would be speculative. If we're looking to use funds to develop future parking opportunities, that would have to come out of a different funding source,
Okay.
at least at this point in time.
All right, thank you. All right, one other question, which is, what is the likely target date do you think to reach the 85% target that you're trying to meet?
I'd say every year we're trying to meet that target. That's the standard, that's industry standard. Hence why increasing the rate might help us achieve that.
Oh, but the supposition is that at least within 5 years, you could reach that target.
Hopefully.
Okay, and if you reach the target before then, will you continue with the rate increases?
Well, yeah, as proposed tonight, we would continue to increase it for the next 5 years. And then at that 5-year mark, we could reconsider.
Okay. And then just adding on to that response, as of right now, we're working on a 5-year incremental update. Annually, the city does also provide an update to the existing parking management plan that looks at the effectiveness of what the current approach looks like. So each year they're fine tuning what's working, what's working well, what could use some adjustment. As you have additional parking opportunities come on site, what kind of impact does that have? So it does give a little bit of a feedback loop that we can fine tune what that might look like. At this point in time, we haven't hit the point where we've been under the 85% occupancy. So I'm not entirely sure what to anticipate. We're kind of not in a position to be able to speculate on that point, but the goal is to be able to get it under that 85% and ultimately continue to course correct where needed on that annual review basis. So it is set to be a 5-year term, though it is looked at annually.
One last question, and that was, there was a town hall meeting last August, I think it was, with South Laguna about their rate increases. And staff reports said there really wasn't any feedback on the parking rates, right? Is that what it said?
Yeah, that is correct. We held the town hall meeting here in August, and the residents were more concerned about South Laguna parking. And right now, a lot of it's free parking on Coast Highway there. So in order for the city to have paid parking, they have to get an encroachment permit from Caltrans, and then basically make it paid parking, make them designated parking spots and then paid parking. So the majority of the comments were regarding the Aliso Beach parking lot and the restructuring and reconfiguration of that parking lot, as well as paid parking in various neighborhoods. And they're interested in permits, for specific neighborhoods as well. And there really weren't that many comments overall on the rate increase, because this is more for the downtown rates.
Okay, thank you.
Has there been any further consideration of creating metered parking in South Laguna on Coast Highway? Because I know it gets brought up once in a while, and I think that the revenue would be fairly substantial, since those beaches are very much used over, not just in the summer, but over the course of a year. Is there any discussion of that?
Yes, that's definitely been discussed, and likely will return to the Planning Commission at a later date once Caltrans gives the green light to allow paid parking on that area.
And as far as the residents go, would they object to that, or would they endorse that as a additional revenue stream for the city?
It was definitely a mixed group, of opinions, I would say. Overall, I know people are supportive of it. I know the same question that you brought up earlier about people then moving into
Right.
residences even more than they already do park in the neighborhoods in South Laguna, as well as on Coast Highway. So I believe some of the concern was if you do make pay stations on Coast Highway, then there will be more people, the neighborhoods will get impacted a bit more. So, but that is planning, that is something that, that we do plan to return with.
Are we constrained by the Coastal Commission to keep those spaces unmetered?
Not necessarily, but we would have to process a separate CDP and look at all the findings and make sure the findings can be made.
Correct. Yeah, the Coastal Commission, while access and parking is very, very important to them, once again, if the program and/or, process posited such that it can be shown that it could potentially increase, once again, going back to my example about a parking spot, monopolized for the entire day by a single individual, or perhaps maybe even a resident with extra cars that just parks it down there. If it can be demonstrated, and once again, I'm speaking hypothetically, that could increase that. It's not necessarily something that the Coastal Commission would unequivocally say no to, but once again, kind of outside the scope here and something that would be a future issue for the city.
That was my first question. Is my recollection.
Mike.
Mike. Oh, sorry. That was my first question. My recollection was that there were restrictions on where we could meter. We couldn't just start metering. And I also recall that there were restrictions on how much we could increase the rates. Is that correct or incorrect?
You are correct. Generally, it's up to 10%. So this is proposals up to 10%. So when it goes back to council annually, it may not be next year. This would be the maximum. So for some reason extra, it's 5%. It does have some flexibility. So generally, it's the Coastal Commission is the 10% threshold there.
And I also had the same question as Susan, which Samantha, I think you answered, but I want to make sure I understand your answer. So if we make the increases and the demand suggests we can increase more, and we get to where we wanted to get at the end of 5 years, say earlier, I think your answer was it's going to be looked at every year within the 5 years.
That is correct. So City Council is apprised of what the current status looks like, and they would be making decisions based upon their current policy at that time.
Okay, and so would there be anything that puts a cap on it? So let's assume that demand is insatiable, the prices go up, occupancy doesn't go down.
We are still looking at a limit to that maximum 10% increase year over year. So as far as that goes, that is our limit. Though what that might look like 10 years from now, we would only be speculating.
Okay. One thing, and you brought up, there's another question, enforcement. So it seems to me up until a few years ago, a couple of years maybe, there really wasn't much enforcement. Although it seemed, let me rephrase it, it seems now that there are more people out enforcing. Within your budget, how do you look at enforcement? Is enforcement, you add another agent or whatever you call them, to go out and enforce and write tickets? I would presume that they pay for themselves pretty handily. And that's my question, is my presumption correct?
Yes, so the enforcement is all done. It has to be done by a city employee right now. So it's through the police department. And it does covers a good portion. I don't have I'd have to get back to you on the numbers specifically, but the cost of the tickets help cover the cost of.
Well, yeah, and I guess my question is it possible to increase the budget by writing more tickets?
Potentially, yeah.
Because I think I'd asked this question once years ago, and someone gave me an unofficial response after the meeting that, well, it's kind of an unofficial policy. We really don't ticket. And it seems like that's the best way because for the most part, and this is going to tie to my last question, for the most part, it's probably not going to impact residents. It's going to impact the people who come here and park illegally. So I guess my question is for consideration, can we increase the budget for enforcement and just write more tickets? My next question is, so you can take that as a comment. You don't have to answer that. My last question is, and I don't know if you know offhand, I'm curious, what percentage of residents pay for the shopper's permit pass? Is it very high? Because I'm curious, residents who go downtown, whether they're using meters or the majority of them are using parking passes.
Shopper's permit.
Shopper's permit, yeah. And it kind of goes to my question of, you know, if you enforce more, who are you harming? Will we be harming more residents or will we be harming more visitors?
The majority, it seems the majority of residents do have at least one shopper's permit for their family. So traditionally, they do have to follow the rules. So if a meter or pay station is a maximum of 4 hours, with your shopper's permit, you can still only park there for 4 hours. You can't stay there all day. But obviously there's no additional fee to that because that's included in your shopper's permit. So traditionally the tickets are issued to people that do the daily pay.
But by the way, I don't know, was anybody else aware? I wasn't aware that if it's a 2-hour restriction, we're restricted on our permits too. Didn't know that. Good to know.
Clean up
Yeah.
your act.
Yeah.
Well, I had a couple questions kind of tie into some of that. Some of the question that you, for the most part, answered regarding the potential new metered spots in South Laguna. That's under consideration. No final decision has been made one way or the other. Commissioner Goldman and I were on an earlier, was it a subcommittee or task force about the Caltrans work and the sidewalk improvements that were happening along a lot of the Coast Highway. And as I recall at that time, it was really Caltrans that was pushing back and saying, you absolutely cannot have metered parking spots unless there's a sidewalk there. Which, you know, was, I don't know whether or not that's a fact or not, but that's what they were saying. And, you know, you'd have to also have designated painted parking spots for each spot and all that. So I thought that was kind of the holdup at that point. But other than that, currently we're not proposing adding in new metered parking spots anywhere that they're not in Laguna right now.
This report just covers existing parking that the city already has.
And then you also touched upon this, it was that some of us are unfamiliar with the parking meters and parking stations because we've gotten used to having our stickers here in town and generally not having to pay in certain areas as myself. And so is it consistent in town for all the parking meters to have a maximum time that you can park there? So somebody cannot keep coming back and feeding the meter and park in the same spot all day long? Or does that vary from area to area? And I guess it tied into that, was there any consideration on fiddling around with that number, how many hours you could park in a parking spot to make people move more often, or was that even considered?
You are correct. Various areas have different times that you can park. So there are some lots that it's all day parking. For example, like lot 10 and 12 in the summer are all day parking. So that encourages, if you wanted to, they have it's a flat rate. But then the various smaller lots around have different times, and then the meters have different times. So essentially, no. I mean, I think if you walked and put quarters in the meter, it would continue on. It would continue on. But technically, if you're paying by the app and stuff, it'll max you out at if it's a 2 or 4 or 3 hour parking meter pay station.
Okay, and I guess this last question is just kind of a broad one, and probably just ask whether or not you agree or disagree. But after reading through the staff report and the current parking management plan study, kind of the takeaway that I got was, the city has come up with a lot of different ideas and plans to try to help alleviate this congestion and parking situation that we have in town. And while a lot of those programs have been successful, say some of the peripheral parking spots and the Summer Breeze program, and the ridership has increased on some of those, and the parking in these peripheral lots has increased, that we're kind of at a wash here, that we're not necessarily making great strides and everything getting better. That we're doing these programs and they are successful, but with the increased pressures and influx of visitors on the town, that we're kind of just staying at the same place. Would you agree with that or not?
From summer 2025 to 2026, that is correct. It is, it is a similar plan that is proposed for the parking. We have increased the days of the week, though, to have an additional day on Thursday at the peripheral lots in Irvine to have guests take the trolley in. So it used to just be Saturday and Sunday, then it increased to Friday, and now we've increased it to Thursday as well. So it gives a little bit more options, for the weekdays. But this plan is pretty similar to what was done last summer.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a couple of quick questions. One is, I know you had some open houses or workshops. To what degree did the retailers downtown have input or were able to address this? Because $10 an hour, I mean, which isn't next year, but ultimately $10 an hour to park in front of their stores. Has there been much outreach or feedback from the retail community?
One or two potential people, but
Are they aware of it? I mean, this program?
That's a good question. I mean, it's been publicized for the different town hall meetings and city council and the meeting this evening. But yeah, we have not received too much feedback at this time from the retail stores.
Okay. And then my other question really is on the 85%. And I think I know the answer, but the 85% is a goal because if you have 85% utilization, it provides enough flexibility for people to find a space. If it's like 95% or 98%, it just becomes so frustrating because there's still spaces available. It's just there's really hard to find. Is that why we're trying to put this sort of economic 101 of supply and demand, in place here to try and control supply, basically?
Yeah, the standard is the
demand.
85%. They said, you don't want to get up to 95 because, I mean, then it gets even more congestion and people still trying to drive around and.
Just creates a frustration.
It's the frustration levels
So the idea is the frustration level of driving around is more important than the frustration level of paying a lot.
Yeah, the standard is, they say the 85% is what is, what the coastal city's target is.
And the peripheral lots are getting fairly reasonable utilization.
Yeah, correct. The Act 5 lot 16 in the Canyon, that lot is very full in the summer. And then the Suburb Breeze out at Concordia University in Irvine. I mean, you could always get a space there, but it was, the utilization was very good this year.
Is there an advertising program and a public relations program that makes people aware of those?
Yes, and even if you're on the 405 freeway, we have signs
I think
as
there's-
well that says, park off Laguna Canyon Road to take the free trolley into Laguna. So,
Okay, are there any more questions for staff? Okay, we can open the public hearing. Would somebody like to speak? You have 3 minutes.
Oh, I don't get more. I'm the only one here. I'm representing all of Laguna as someone with a shopper's permit. I really appreciate the discussion that you guys had here. This was great. I was really worried that questions were going to be missed, and that's why I was fidgeting back there. You guys all asked great questions, but I still think there's a lot of things missing. I was at the town hall in the fall or late summer, and I think this thing is not going to get solved overnight. I understand that the thing that you guys have to vote on is just in the rate increase, right? And this is not just a simple thing. This is going to be multiple processes, over time of how we're going to solve the parking issue in town. So I just wanted to preface that part. So I understand you guys have a difficult decision ahead of you, and it's not going to be solved just tonight. So first thing, we need to increase the rates, right? It has to be done. So I hope you guys do vote and approve on that this evening. It is controlled by the Coastal Commission, right? We can increase it even more. That was a great question. We are limited by that. The supply was hopefully maybe down the road, maybe it's going to be next month. That'll come to you guys about increasing that supply from Moss Point, which is where it was discussed at the town hall, all the way to, I believe it was Aliso. It could have been up to 1,000 steps because it was requested at the town hall to increase it all the way to 3 Arch Bay. We are one of the only places in Orange County on PCH that offers this much free parking. And that's the problem that a lot of residents felt, is that it's enticing. You know, I don't want to put anybody down when it comes to tourism, but we have to face the facts. It's enticing a different class or type of tourist who's coming into town that is not behaving, you know, as they should in this town when it comes to respecting our beaches, our environment, and the rule of law when it comes to how they need to act in public. And then that, you know, kind of cascades into going into the residences. And the residents were hoping, as it was mentioned, I apologize, maybe it was you, Commissioner Winton or Dubin, about the local like resident permits. And although that sounds good in theory, we have that where I previously lived. I am native from Laguna Beach, but when I lived in Washington, D.C., we have that where like you have a parking permit in the city and then you have a zone number for your area. But we can't do that here. Coastal Commission prevents it. So residents are very concerned about people going into their neighborhoods and parking, but it's already happening now, right? So whether we raise rates or not, they're already going up there. We need to raise rates to tell people if they want to park somewhere else, you know, if they want to go to a cheaper area, they can go to another part of Orange County. The only problem is we're one of the cheapest places to park already. So we need to raise those rates and match the towns that we want to be elevated with. So I'm almost out of time, even though I wish I had more time to speak on behalf of the citizens here, but, you know, free parking is already available. We need to raise the rates. Hopefully we can increase supply. When it comes to downtown and the shoppers, they need more supply. That's what a lot of shop owners have been requesting. It would be great for the city to maybe run a poll and ask. I'm surprised they haven't done that yet. I think maybe increasing the green painted curbs, like the 30 minutes, right? Because if you're shopping in town, you don't need 4 hours necessarily. So we don't want to, increase that supply. So maybe increasing the 30-minute supply around town for people to kind of pop in, park, shop, pay a little bit and go. But, we don't want to increase too much supply because if you build it, they will come. So there is that sweet spot or the Goldilocks spot that I believe Mr. Donegan, that you mentioned, which I agree with you on that. But the key thing is here tonight, like I mentioned, it's not going to get solved all in one moment, but increasing the rates is the first step. The next step is seeing our ability to protect the neighborhoods because we want to, be respectful to the neighbors and having people coming up there. And then finally downtown, maybe it's a 30-minute thing, but I don't think raising the rates, which we're not really in control of, is going to prevent it. So I really hope you guys this evening do approve raising the rates tonight. And then down the road, we can look at other ways to solve our parking issues.
Thank you for your
Sorry.
comments. Very helpful. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. And if there are no other questions, let's move to discussion.
I'm supportive of the parking rate increase as proposed. I'm supportive of the parking management plan that the city has been active in trying to further move forward. I like I said, my takeaway after reading that was like, geez, it seems as hard as we're trying and stuff that it's so hard to get to, this number that we're looking at. And I just, my office is up in Irvine, so I'm driving up and down the canyon every day. And I drive the stretch between the 405 and the 5 freeway and the 133. And it's, those apartment buildings that are going in there, they're high density living and they're building a lot of them. And there's one under construction right now that's even closer to us, closer to the 405 freeway. And I just look at that all the time. I go, man, all those people are just going to want to come to our beaches, all our beaches. And so, as much as we'd like to insulate ourselves from these outside forces, we can't, and we have to deal with it as best as we can. So that's what I'm looking for. It seems like this is as good a plan as any. Whether or not they move forward with metered parking along Coast Highway in those sections of South Laguna. I would hope that, that the city moves forward with any discussions about the possibility of that happening. But before we get to the point of finalizing that a real effort to get public input from the residents of those areas really get promoted and try to get as much input as possible. Because I could see that being, could go in either way. It could be beneficial, or it could end up making the situation worse for the local neighborhoods there. So I think that's really important that we get feedback about that. But other than that, it just seems as though these parking increases are in line with what other communities are doing and with what we're able to do. And so I say let's move forward.
Thank you.
I'm supportive of the increases in the plan as well. For the record, I think our enforcement is terrible, and I think there should be more enforcement. And the fact that you can make money enforcing, it just seems to me a no-brainer. I could go into, I'm in South Laguna, I could go into all kinds of examples of enforcement, and most of it, I think, impacts life safety. On Coast Highway, the way people park, they park in front of the reds, they park in front of hydrants. It's shocking to me that there's not somebody up there who is ticketing, and you park in a red zone, you park in front of a hydrant. That's probably a big ticket. That's not your meter running over. And I just think there should be much more enforcement. But I'm supportive of the plan.
Yeah, it's an excellent staff report, lays out the background for these specific rates and all of the various agencies that are involved, most important being the Coastal Commission as it affects us. So I definitely support the rate increases. I still, the second point I want to make is, this is not an ultimate solution, which I said before. We need advanced planning for parking and how to it's part of visitor management. I'm not a big advocate of building parking structures. I think there could be another solution that's more peripheral to us as a city, but we need to work on it. I mean, this is just like the boy with his hand in the dike, and it's just going to, we're dealing with how many millions of people now? Is it really 6.5 million a year, which is like the Grand Canyon, actually. So we need to deal with the parking, and this is an interim way of managing it, but it's certainly not a long-term solution.
Well, I agree with a lot of points of my fellow commissioners. I wrote this little comment. I'm supportive of the rate increase as well, just so you know, and this is not a critique of anything or any suggestions. We're going to see continued vehicle impact on our city due to the continued increase of development over the hill, which Commissioner Sadler touched on. It seems like we as a city continue to push back on the idea of a parking structure, which I am for, unlike my fellow commissioner sitting next to me. At the village entrance, if you look out 5 to 10 years, the rate of housing development in South Orange County is only going to increase due to what I call the no open space policy of surrounding communities and developers. And we've seen that, again, these huge apartment complexes at the end of Laguna Canyon Road that they just keep filling in open space wherever they can. And those people are going to come to Laguna Beach. So we talk about parking. When we talk about parking, we need to recognize that our parking problems are not going to go away anytime soon. A parking structure won't solve everything due to the nature of development of Laguna Beach over the last 100 years, but we need to be realistic about impacts of our car-centric culture in Southern California. We can adjust rates, we can make better signage, we can educate the public, we can provide alternative methods of transportation. But, you know, Laguna is a very unique city. You know, I don't think people 50 years ago were thinking about how much South Orange County was going to get developed, but now we see a never-ending stream of development over the hill that is absolutely impacting our community. And, you know, I live in the canyon, so I see it every single day. It's getting worse and worse. I've been there for almost 50 years, and you know, what used to be a relatively easy in and out of the complex I live in has gotten heavily impacted by, you know, the 40,000 plus cars a day that use the canyon. You know, even with the advent of alternative means of transportation, we're simply, in my opinion, are putting Band-Aids on a problem that isn't going to get, that's only going to get worse over the next, you know, number of years until there is no more open space over the hill to develop. And I think, you know, we talk about the potential of impact taxes on these types of development, and I don't know if that's even something that can happen. But, you know, we need to look at a lot of other ways of dealing with the additional traffic that's coming to town. And I know, you know, a lot of younger people don't drive cars like we all used to or still do. But I still think, you know, it's not hard to look at the development that's continuing to happen in South Orange County and think that our problem is going to somehow be solved by rate increases or providing trolleys and those kinds of things. Those are excellent ideas and have certainly helped. But, you know, I really believe that as much as we may not want to have a parking structure at the village entrance, that I think that's a very underutilized area. I think the parking structure, if it's designed properly, it's sitting up against the hill would have a relatively limited impact on, you know, the visual quality of the city. And I think if we did it in a way where, you know, if during the off season it was underutilized, you know, it could have some alternative programming that could happen there. So, and I still think we should be looking at impact tax on developers over the hill that are building these mega apartment complexes. And, you know, I'm sure they're telling people, you know, you're just, you know, 7 short miles away from the most beautiful beaches in all of Southern California. And, you know, those people are going to continue to come down here. And there's you know, we keep reacting to these problems by trying to figure out how to you know, shoehorn more parking into existing areas in town, and we keep looking away from the idea of a parking structure. But I think, you know, if we had a 200 or 300 car parking structure at the village entrance, it's not going to solve the problem, but it's certainly going to help things. So anyways, but I'm supportive of what you're doing and the efforts you're making to try to manage our parking and traffic situation. But I think we need to be really thinking 5, 10, 15 years down the road at this point, because I think it's going to get worse before, you know, there's enough alternative methods of transportation which don't exist right now. So that's my comment.
Yes, I'm in supportive of the program too. I'm not going to add much, but I'll also vote for the parking structure because I do think it can be tastefully done in a manner that can modulate the aesthetic impact. If you've ever been to Zermatt or a lot of resort communities around the world, they have remote parking and people are shuttled in. I'm not even sure the parking deck would need to be at the village entrance. I think it could be farther upstream, ideally. But when I look at the rates, you know, I've been here for 45 years, and I look at it and I go, wow, that's a lot. And then I think about, I just got back from Deer Valley from last weekend, and when I remember what I paid to be in that resort environment. And if you go to Disneyland these days, it costs $1,000 for a family to go to to Disneyland, anymore. It actually were a real bargain. So I think there is elasticity probably in the model. And so I think we should probably take advantage of it as long as we are monitoring it. And we're just not generating extra revenue for the general fund, which doesn't sound like we are. Anyway, so I'm supportive. Would somebody like to make a motion?
I'll take a crack at it. Adopt resolution 26-0115, approving coastal development permit 2026-0115 and finding said action exempt from CEQA.
Second.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg,
Yes.
motion carries.
Okay, thank you. So do we have any other business, either from staff or from the commission?
All right, I have no additional updates this evening for staff.
Any questions from the commission?
I just have a comment about the Hive. Apparently something has happened there. I don't know if it's gone through a transition of ownership, but they are now removing all the outdoor dining required by, I don't know if somebody said maybe the bank is requiring that so that it makes it more attractive to sell the property. But it's really kind of a shame that we're going sort of in reverse on, trying to make things more pedestrian friendly to now, being excited about cars over people. And it's basically a comment, but I don't know if staff knows anything about what's happening there.
So we do have an item coming before the commission in the next month regarding the existing outdoor dining program and the extension of the existing TUPs following the extension of city council. As opposed to the original December 31st sunset of the program. So when it comes to the Hive specifically, we won't get into the details, but it is on behalf of the property ownership that they're not looking to move forward at this time. So we do not have a current application. Their existing TUP would have expired and they are not in the process of receiving an additional extension on their TUP.
Do you know who has the property actually been sold to a private owner, or is it a
Not
bank?
that I'm aware of, but it's outside of the scope of what we're working on now.
All right, that's all.
I have a recommended book. California Against the Sea. And it's about climate change and sea level rise.
There isn't climate change anymore.
I know. Just saying. It's written by an LA Times reporter. And it's a good book, for Audible, for walking. It's got lots of chapters, so they're short snippets. Chapter 5 is about Laguna Beach. So you'll recognize a lot of
California, what's it called?
California Against the Sea. Very listenable.
Any other questions or comments? I guess,
It'll be an exam after.
yes.
What is this, a book club now?
Okay, well, I think that wraps it. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn to our next regularly scheduled planning commission meeting on
March
on March 4th, 2026.
Second.
Commissioner Sadler,
Yes.
Commissioner Whiten,
Yes.
Commissioner Dubin,
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Goldman,
Yes.
Chair Kellenberg,
Yes,
motion carries.
adjourned. What is the deal with the parking structure?